This is the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session presented by SEPTA, a weekly recap of your fightin' Phils. Broadcasting live from Chickies and Pete's, tonight's show is brought to you by Independence Blue Cross, The Capitol Grill, Hand and Stone Spa, Chickies and Pete's, SEPTA, Team Toyota, and Eddie V's Prime Seafood. We now go live to Chickies and Pete's for the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session presented by SEPTA. Now, here are your hosts, Phillies PA announcer Dan Baker and former Phillies pitcher Brandon Duckworth.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chickies and Pete's in South Philadelphia. Right around the corner from Citizens Bank Park, where tonight the Phillies will host Rhys Hoskins and the Milwaukee Brewers. And we've got two former Phillies pitchers on with us today. Our co-host is Brandon Duckworth. You know, Brandon, when I think of some of the terrific starting pitchers who come up through our system, of course, Aaron Nola is one. You think of right away, Ranger Suarez. But Zach Wheeler came from another spot. And you were one of the shining lights of the Phillies farm system and were eventually traded to Houston for potential Hall of Famer Billy Wagner. So
who's that?
Somebody must have thought well of you. Have a nice round of applause for Brandon Duckworth. And our special guest played on two Phillies World Series teams, 1983 and 1993, 10 years apart. There's not too many Phillies that can claim that distinction. He was a terrific, in fact, I'm going to ask you, L.A., because it was such a special victory for the Phillies. In 1993, in Atlanta, Lenny Dykstra hits the 10th inning home run. You get the save in the bottom of the 10th. An important part of Phillies history that helped the Phillies return to Philadelphia with a good chance to win the NLCS, which you did, and then move on to the World Series against the Toronto Blue Jays in 1993. But a lot of, like Richie Ashburn, beloved as a player, beloved even more as a broadcaster, L.A., I think the same applies to you. You were a terrific relief pitcher for the Phillies and have become even more beloved as a broadcaster for so many years. And you and Scott Fransky form an outstanding radio play-by-play team. Ladies and gentlemen, number 47, Larry Andersen. See that? Look at all those folks came out of the men's room to see you. Yeah, they heard L.A. Here they come. They weren't going to miss your intro, L.A.
They were probably in there getting sick.
No. Well, L.A., thank you for all your years of service as a player, as a broadcaster, as a coach in AAA, pitching coach, or AA, was it?
Both.
Both. There you go. And L.A., having been a part of two Phillies World Series teams who were National League champions, what do you think of the 2024 Phillies?
I think there's a real good chance that there'll be another ring ceremony next year around this time. I really do. This club, the chemistry, the way they play, the one thing surprised me is I said at the start of the year, I thought the Phillies had a great team, but I was concerned about their depth. We're showing that we have a lot of depth with pitchers going down, guys, Turner going down at shortstop, Sosa possibly, Marsh probably, and guys are just filling in. Guys are stepping up and doing what they need to do and keeping this club on a roll.
Well, you know, our co-host today is also a scout for the New York Yankees. And the two best records in baseball, the Philadelphia Phillies and the New York Yankees. Brandon, is it possible we're going to see each other in the Fall Classic?
Hey, I could only hope. I think that would be one heck of a series. I mean, you know, you look at this club here in Philadelphia. I mean, LA hit it on the head. I mean, the chemistry, just how they play together. And I wanted to ask him, what's the biggest difference he saw from maybe last year to this year?
I think the guys, the way the season ended last year, had a lot to do with what they came in wanting to do this year. They have a chip on their shoulder. The camaraderie, you know how important that is. And they have that. They have that chemistry. And they are all disappointed, you know, sorely disappointed, as were the fans last year, the way it ended. And I think they came into this spring more focused. I know we didn't get off to the first two series great starts, but from that point on, it's been phenomenal. And I think that's the big thing, is that they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. They're very focused and going out there knowing what they have to do, that losing games in April counts. You know, it hurts.
Yes, they do.
So they turn things around, and well, they no longer have the best record in baseball, Ducky.
None of my doing, obviously.
The Yankees, well, they couldn't do it without scouts, right?
You want to know something else that the Phillies and Yankees have in common? Among active major league managers, you know who has the highest winning percentage? Rob Thompson. You know who's second? Aaron Boone.
Wow.
Yeah, he's won a lot of regular season. Not much success in the postseason.
Right.
But, my goodness, I think his first 2 years he went over 100.
Yeah, I tell you, you know, it's interesting because, you know, you can be a great team throughout the regular season, but are you built for playoffs? And I think right now, I really believe both teams are built for the playoffs and to go deep in the playoffs. And, you know, heaven forbids any big injuries occur to either club. I mean, I know there was a scare with Ranger the other night when he took the line drive off the hand. Look, we've been without Garrett Cole for the whole season thus far. But, you know, we just had a guy go down with a lat strain in Schmidt. So, you know, you're going to have those. And much like LA's talking about with the depth of these clubs, you got to have depth and have guys that step up, overcome those situations. And sometimes that just puts those guys on a track that they take off as well. Yeah. You know, and that's so valuable. And, you know, it's all about consistency and the health and having that thing at the end of the tunnel where you're like, you know what, as LA said, you got punched in the chin last year. You got to come back, and now they want it even more. There's a focus even more so because they don't like that feeling. They don't want that to happen again, and they want to have a parade.
Larry Andersen, we started by saying you played on two Phillies World Series teams. Could you compare and contrast those two teams, the 1983 National League champion Phillies and the 1993 National League champion Phillies?
I would say the biggest difference is the 83 team, known as the Wheeze Kids, probably an average age of 40. The average age of the 93 team was probably 25. That's the biggest difference. Wow. I mean, it was an old team in 83. It really was. But talk about superstars. When I came from Seattle, and the Phillies bought my contract in 83 in July, and I came from, you know, Dave Edler, our third baseman, Paul Cerna at short, Dan Farova catching, you know, household names. And then I come to Philadelphia, and I walk in a clubhouse, and I see Carlton, and I see Schmidt, I see Morgan, I see Pete Rose, I see Tony Perez. Those are just the Hall of Famers. Mike Schmidt, did I mention him? And then you have Gary Maddox, the Secretary of Defense. You had Gary Matthews. I mean, it goes on and on. The talent and I was in awe. I walked in that clubhouse. I'm like, what am I doing here? I don't belong with these guys. But they were older. You know, they were longer in tooth. But when it came to playoff time or you know the last month, the pennant drive, Joe Morgan just took off. I mean, he put the team on his back, and he was unbelievable for that last month of September. And they had, mixed in some infusion of young players. Juan Samuel had come up and done a nice job. Lenny Matusik. But it was mainly the older team, the guys that had been around the game a long time that got us into the World Series. The '93 team was. There aren't words to describe the '93 team. A bunch of
throwbacks, as Harry would call it.
Yeah, throwbacks is one of the words. Other people have said the derelicts. And it was. I mean, the guys just had fun, and it was a team that played hard on the field. The thing is that the team partied pretty much off the field, but when that clock turned to 7:35 or 7:05, whatever time the game was, they played the game right. They crossed that white line. I mean, you had something you don't see today. The unselfishness of the players. If you had a man on second, nobody out, hit a ball to the right side. Try and drive it to the gap, but at least of all, you're going to at least get them to third base with less than 2 outs. And they all did that. From 1 through 9 in the order, they strived to play the game the right way. And that was something that it really impressed me watching the everyday players of the '93 team.
Speaking of the '93 team, one of the biggest saves in your career came in the 10th inning. Was it Game 5 in Atlanta? Lenny Dykstra hits the home run in the top of the 10th. Take us through the bottom of the 10th with number 47, Larry Andersen, on the mound.
It was a little shaky. It was a 1-2-3 inning, but it wasn't without some jitters. I got behind Otis Nixon to lead off the bottom of the 10th, if he gets on, he's on second base because I couldn't hold anybody on with my leg kick. And I got the 3-1. I said, I'm just throwing it down the middle and hope he doesn't hit it out. He hadn't hit, I don't know if he hit any home runs or how many he hit that year, but it was very few. He wasn't known as a power guy. So he hit the ball and took, I think it was Eisenreich in right, back to the warning track for the catch. My heart kind of skipped a beat there. And then Jeff Blauser came up, and my slider, which was what I threw 90% of the time, I was hanging it, but he was swinging through it. And fortunately, he was swinging through it. Then Gant came up, and Blauser ended up striking out on a high slider. I don't know how he missed it. And then Gant came up, certainly a power threat, hung a couple sliders at him. He fouled one back, and Dalton was kind of thinking, if we throw another one of those, this game's going to be tied. So he called for a split, my changeup. And my jaw hit the ground. Yeah. And any guys behind me probably saw that. But I was like, well, why not? Let's try it. I threw a split that I maybe threw twice in a game all year. And it actually had some movement. It started up, came back down, and caught the outside corner for a strikeout, a called third strike. And that's how it ended. It took a lot of guts, I think, first of all, for Dalton to even call it. But I knew myself, if I threw another slider, it probably wasn't going to go well.
Do you agree that was the biggest save of your career?
Yes.
Or is there another that?
No, that was it. That was the biggest save I had.
Brandon Duckworth, what was the best MLB team you played for, and what year?
Ooh, well, I was on the 04 and 05 Astros clubs that we kind of overcame some adversity early on, and we caught fire the second half. We had managerial change my first year where Jimmy Williams was let go, and coaching staff, Phil Garner comes in. All of a sudden we rocket off, and we saw one of the best playoff series I've ever seen in Beltron. Nobody could get him out. And we'll probably never see anything like that. Maybe similar, but it was unbelievable. And then the next year in 05, when we were able to get to the World Series and ultimately lost, but those were the two best teams for me.
You mentioned Jimmy Williams, L.A. Jimmy Williams was the bench coach for Charlie Manuel on the 2008 Phillies World Series champions. Great baseball man, wasn't he?
Very much so, yes. Really, I mean, you could go to him, ask him anything, and he would have an answer, and a legitimate good answer for you.
Now, he was not a part of the 2009 Phillies that went back to the World Series. The only time in our history we went to back-to-back fall classics. Do you recall the circumstances? Did he retire, or I don't think there was any negative thing there, was there? I don't know.
I don't know if there was a conflict of interest there. I'm not sure. I've tried, honestly, that is something that you don't want to get involved with, you know, but I didn't ever hear anything, whether it was negative, positive, or if he just did it on his own. I don't think he left on his own, but he might have. I honestly don't know.
Okay, well, hey, listen, isn't this an interesting conversation with former Phillies relief pitcher and popular broadcaster, L.A., Larry Andersen, and Brandon Duckworth, one of the top starting pitching prospects that come up through the Phillies organization, and now a scout for the New York Yankees. Our producer is Chris Ermer. I'm Dan Baker, back with the second segment of today's Independence Blue Cross Bull Session in just a moment.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Relax and enjoy a cocktail from our seasonal cocktail menu. Try one of our delicious, perfectly blended options like strawberry lemonade. How about a raspberry sangria, blend of Pinot Grigio, raspberry liqueur, and bubbly lemon lime soda? Or maybe a Hendrick's Gimlet or a Patron Tropical Mojito is more your style. Enjoy one of these or many others from our Chicky and Pete's sensational seasonal cocktail selection. Only at Chickies and Pete's.
Whether you're headed to brunch or baseball practice, Team Toyota is ready. With new Toyotas on the lot ready to drive home today, including the all-new Tacoma and rows of RAV4s. And with our huge selection of dependable certified used Toyotas, our pre-owned departments are ready to make a deal that works for you. Plus, our award-winning service centers will have you back on the road in no time. Visit one of our 3 locations in Princeton, Langhorne, or Glen Mills, or online at teamtoyota.net.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Learn more about your coverage options at ibx.com.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
I SEPTA Philly. I SEPTA Philly. I SEPTA Philly.
I take SEPTA so I never miss tip-off.
I do not have time to deal with traffic.
I don't have a car. Do you know how expensive parking is?
I take the Broad Street line to all the games.
I ride the bus.
I ride the train and the subway.
I set my lineup when I ride.
I check Twitter, text my buddies.
I watch sports highlights or lowlights.
For real Philly fans, SEPTA is the hometown way to go. Ride with us at iseptaphilly.com.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session, presented by SEPTA. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies PA announcer Dan Baker and former Phillies pitcher Brandon Duckworth.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Chickies and Pete's. Phillies and Brewers tonight, 6:40 start. Around the corner at Citizens Bank Park, the return of Rhys Hoskins. You know, Brandon Duckworth and Larry Andersen, the headliners of today's show. Rhys Hoskins had a wonderful career as a Philly, and he's starting off pretty good with Milwaukee. He was out for 3 weeks with a hamstring, and L.A., I noticed last night Brandon Marsh might have injured his hamstring. Trey Turner is out with a hamstring. How would you evaluate Brandon Duckworth, Rhys Hoskins? Why is he no longer a Philly?
I think the big thing is when you have a guy like Bryce Harper. Where else is Bryce going to play? Outfield's full. He's here a long time. You got Reese, who I think was probably one of the biggest losses the Phillies could have had last year. I don't know if you would agree with that, LA, but I think the dynamic he brought on the field as well as some leadership. But I think that was the biggest thing is you got a guy like Bryce who's coming off of the injury, full outfield. There's a DH where you've got Schwarber still. I just think it was a numbers thing more than anything.
Yeah, LA, why don't we get your look at that situation?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One, basically what Ducky said, that Harper coming back, and we needed a DH, but the team definitely wasn't as good with Schwarber in the outfield. That's just plain and simple fact. To try and get him in a DH position, it left no room for Reese, really, because when Harper went to first, because they didn't want him throwing from the outfield, although you're still going to air balls out from the infield, so I guess maybe a little precaution, but I don't know that it would made that big a difference. But I think Harper surprised a lot of people with the way he played at first base. He excelled. He really did a nice job for a guy that never played there. I thought he did an excellent job, and it kind of made Reese expendable, where you could put Schwarber in the DH spot. So there was really, you weren't going to put Reese in the outfield. And at that point, if you're going to do that, you might as well put Schwarber out there. And it just wasn't as good a team with either of those guys in the outfield. So I think it left no room for Reese. But he was certainly beloved by the players. He was a guy that I think some of the players coming over here looked up to. He had been with the organization the longest, and these guys were new to the organization. And I think he took a leadership role that maybe that some others didn't want.
LA, what kind of reception do you think Reese is going to get when I introduce him tonight at the ballpark?
I think he'll get a great reception. I think the fans in Philadelphia, that obviously, this has been for the history of Philadelphia, the fans have always gotten a bad rap, and I think it's kept alive by the media. Not so much the Philadelphia media, but the national media, the national market. They love to just hammer Philly fans. And if they ever came here for a playoff game and sat in the seats during a playoff game, I think it would change their thinking. And then to see what they did with Trey Turner, giving him an ovation. These fans are passionate. They want their teams to win. They'll boo the other team. But to have somebody like Reese, who is so important to this ball club for so long, I think he'll get a tremendous ovation. I really do.
I do, too. Reese has said that he thinks he's going to be booed.
No.
I never thought that for a moment.
No.
And when you look at other guys that have come back, did you ever get booed during your stay a couple of times as a Philly?
I probably heard a couple coming off the field when it was a disaster, and I understand that. To me, and I say this all the time, if I stink, if I'm in the stands, I'm going to boo me too. If you're not doing your job, fan, that's the nature of the game. If you're not doing what you're expected to do, chances are you're going to get booed. And I think that the fans, if they see your effort is there, this is more for players, the everyday players. But if they see you're playing, you're busting your butt and doing everything you can, even if you mess up, they're not going to get on you nearly as much as if you're dogging it and you mess up. Then they're going to hammer you, and rightfully so.
Brandon Duckworth, do you ever remember getting booed as a Philly in Philadelphia?
Oh yeah, look, it's part of the game. Like LA said, you go out there, you have a rough game, you're gonna get booed, flat out. Doesn't matter. That's part of it. That's part of the way it is. But as I've always said, you own up to it. You say, you know what, I stunk today. I think you gain more respect out of the fan base, the city of Philadelphia, everybody, because you know what? And just like I guess it was Bohm when he said what he said, and he's like, I didn't mean it. I was frustrated, but I own it. You own it. You go out there. You know what? This city is a great city for any sports fan, or for any sports player, I should say. The fans, are they passionate? Yep. Where do you want to play? You want to play in a place that the fans are passionate. They're behind you all the way. You know, they're riding every pitch just like a player would. And I think that's the biggest thing in going to all of these games and being able, fortunately, I'm on the scouting side now, sitting in the stands, evaluating how players can handle the pressure. Like, it's hard to play in New York, Boston, and Philadelphia, no doubt about it. And those guys that can play here, either they stay here forever or every team is clamoring to try to sign them because they know that they don't have to worry about anything makeup-wise. Can they play in this environment? You can play in this environment. You can play in any.
I think a testament to that fact that the playing here is Whit Merrifield, that he had a chance to go to a couple other teams and play every day. And instead, knowing if he came here, he was going to be a bench player, he still wanted to do that. And talking to friends of his, other players that have played here or played against us during the playoffs, he heard how great it was. He saw it on TV, and he said, "I want to experience that. I want to play there." And so for a guy to come here to be a bench player and is an all-star last year, to know that he's going to be on the bench, as not an everyday player, I think that speaks volumes to the city and to the fans of Philadelphia.
L.A., he is off to a slow start,
yes.
However. You can see he's got baseball know-how and things he does on the field. Do you think he's going to get things? I mean, he led the American League in hits. He led the American League in steals. He was a former American League batting champion. But offensively, we haven't seen a whole lot to date.
Right. No, we haven't. And I think he'll be the first to say that. I mean, Ducky already mentioned earlier about being accountable. I mean, standing up and saying, hey, I stunk, or if you can't do that here, you might as well just go to another club. You might as well walk away. Seriously, it's not worth it. But to come here and get off to a slow start, he knows it. He knows he's not doing what he's capable. Everybody, I think, can see it, that his numbers aren't there. But it's also a big adjustment for him not playing every day. I think that's one of the toughest things is if you're in a bullpen like a long man where you don't get regular work, or if you're a bench player where you don't get regular at-bats, it's a completely different animal. And I think it's a big adjustment for him trying to understand what he needs to do to get his rhythm, get his timing and everything, and keep it. And I think Thompson's done a nice job trying to get him in there, moving him around. Maybe not as much now because he has been struggling, but I think early on he was getting a lot of chances, a lot of opportunities to play different positions, and you expect him to get it turned around. I think he will. It's just a matter of time and how long.
Well, you look at some of the other successful teams, and they'll get contributions from the young players. How about the development of Alec Bohm, Bryson Stott, Johan Rojas? You're always evaluating Brandon. I know you played a part in some Yankee trades or draft picks. What do you think? And I think you and I had this conversation a few years ago when the Phillies farm system left something to be desired. We didn't draft well. We didn't develop well. But I think Dave Dombrowski has done a remarkable job. And I maybe you read in the paper the other day that a lot of people have panned Matt Klentak, former general manager. But he signed Bryce Harper. He signed Zach Wheeler. He traded for JT Realmuto. Drafted Ranger Suarez. So I think if you look at him, I know John Middleton's very complimentary of Matt. And so the question I'm trying to get at, Brandon, is when you evaluate the Phillies farm system now, how does it compare to a few years ago? And who do you see in the Phillies farm system that could be contributing either this year or down the road?
Yeah, I think the farm system has gotten better. I think there's more depth. The biggest thing for me was seeing just kind of, there was a little bit of a lull. They would hit AA, and then all of a sudden they just wouldn't develop. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen. And now I'm starting to see there's a lot of kids down in the younger levels, and because you've had the graduation of the Bones, Stotts, Rojas, Suarez. I'd always liked ever since I first saw him when he was in Williamsport. They had a big group of guys, and that's typical of the development processes. For every one that makes it, there's probably 8 or 9 that don't, even though that we have prospect tags on them and think they're going to be this, or this, whether it be stagnating, whether it be injuries, whether it be trading, and then they just don't develop. Like, that's part of the process, and I think the Phillies are well on their way to establishing some other kids, and I think the one kid that everybody needs to watch, he has a chance to move quick, he's young, is Aiden Miller. I think he is, what I saw this year, he has a chance to be a really good player.
Are you familiar with him, L.A.?
Not a lot, but I do look at the box score, the minor league box scores every day. The one thing I have a big problem with is that when you look at our pitchers, whether they're worried about load management, they only let them pitch a certain number of pitches. That's one thing that I don't agree with. The other one is everything is so much based on analytics. They've forgotten how to help guys mechanically. Analytics can't help your mechanics. Analytics is about velocity and spin. Well, you can get anybody to throw harder than they are with certain, with the analytics, and you can help them with the spin, but you can't help them with their command. And when I look at our box scores and I see so many of our pitchers at the higher levels, if they're throwing 80 pitches, it's 50 strikes, not even that, 45 strikes, 35 balls. I mean, it's just somebody's got to be around there that's played the game, and that's the one thing that bothers me is that baseball as a whole is they don't want baseball players, former baseball players in the organization coaching, which is ludicrous. It's all about analytics, and analytics again can't help guys throw strikes. And I think you need some baseball people, but they don't want that as a whole. And I'm not saying the Phillies, I'm saying all of baseball for the most part. I look at pitching coaches in the major leagues. There's a number of them that never played Major League Baseball. And some didn't even play in the minor leagues. They came from a batting clinic, a batting cage or something. And if you haven't been there, I don't think you can help guys, teach guys at the major league level if you haven't been there.
We're at Chickies and Pete's flagship today, 15th and Packer in South Philadelphia, around the corner from Citizens Bank Park. This is the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session presented by SEPTA, broadcasting over WBCB, 1490 AM and 107.3 FM. With Larry Andersen and Brandon Duckworth, I'm Dan Baker, back with the second half of today's show after these words.
Oh, you're so
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Relax and enjoy a cocktail from our seasonal cocktail menu. Try one of our delicious, perfectly blended options like strawberry lemonade. How about a raspberry sangria, blend of Pinot Grigio, raspberry liqueur, and bubbly lemon lime soda? Or maybe a Hendrick's Gimlet or a Patron Tropical Mojito is more your style. Enjoy one of these or many others from our Chicky and Pete's sensational seasonal cocktail selection. Only at Chickies and Pete's. Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Relax and enjoy a cocktail from our seasonal cocktail menu. Try one of our delicious, perfectly blended options like strawberry lemonade. How about a raspberry sangria, blend of Pinot Grigio, raspberry liqueur, and bubbly lemon lime soda? Or maybe a Hendrick's Gimlet or a Patron Tropical Mojito is more your style. Enjoy one of these or many others from our Chicky and Pete's sensational seasonal cocktail selection. Only at Chickies and Pete's.
Whether you're headed to brunch or baseball practice, Team Toyota is ready. with new Toyotas on the lot ready to drive home today, including the all-new Tacoma and rows of RAV4s. And with our huge selection of dependable certified used Toyotas, our pre-owned departments are ready to make a deal that works for you. Plus, our award-winning service centers will have you back on the road in no time. Visit one of our 3 locations in Princeton, Langhorne, or Glen Mills, or online at teamtoyota.net.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Learn more about your coverage options at ibx.com.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
SEPTA offers a variety of career opportunities. Our core business is transit, and with 5 modes of service, we rely on and need operators, engineers, and conductors. But it takes a host of other specialties, including mechanics, electricians, plumbers, masons, painters, carpenters, welders, and more to keep the system moving. As an employee, you will earn competitive compensation and great benefits, including medical, dental, prescription, and a pension. Visit jobs.septa.org to apply today. That's jobs.septa.org.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session, presented by SEPTA. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies PA announcer Dan Baker and former Phillies pitcher Brandon Duckworth.
Hey, everybody, thank you. Was that Mark Weissner's voice I heard above everyone else's there, Jerry? Well, thank you all. He must have seen Larry Andersen here and Brandon Duckworth, and we appreciate all of you who are here this afternoon at Chickies and Pete's, 15th and Packer. And of course, you know, this is live streamed. You can hear the show back tonight. We'll be across the street for the Phillies and Brewers. And Milwaukee's in first place, Brandon in LA in the NL Central. And I thought after losing Corbin Burns and somebody, their manager, they might be in trouble, but they're doing okay, Larry Andersen.
They're doing a great job. They're playing well right now. They've pretty much been in first place a good portion of the first third of the season. They got some players. They got some talent. They got some young players. They got some veterans. Yelich is back on track to where he was early in his career. He is looks like he's just a beast right now. Willie Adames, up and down the order. They got some talent. They got some pitching. They've got a little bit of everything. It's going to be a real test for the Phils.
Who do you see, Brandon, winning the NL Central this year?
Ooh, that's a tough one because I don't watch the NL Central, unfortunately. But, I mean, this is a club that, as we were talking about earlier, you're having those young guys step up, establish themselves. Now they're playing with confidence. Any player with confidence, it's tough to slow down. So I think the mix of the Hoskins of the world and the Yelich coming back being healthy, I think there's a lot of positive attributes that team combined. Now they're playing with that energy. And historically, the past years, the Central has been kind of a weak division. But, you know, you're still in major leagues. And as long as they can stay healthy, you know, they have to be the front runners right now. I mean, you've got a young club in Cincinnati that I don't think is playing as well as they could. But, you know, and Pittsburgh, they're coming along.
They got some pitching, some arms.
Watch out. pitching carries you. Pitching wins championships, period, no matter what. If you have starting pitching 1 through 3 to that fourth guy, you have an opportunity to go deep in the regular season, let alone playoffs, as we've all seen, because if you're utilizing a bullpen all too often early in the year, they start to falter at the end. You got to be good for not just 162. You got to be good for, 180 total?
Yeah.
So, or potential. So you have to be able to sustain that. And I think right now the top teams, all those guys, their starters are going deep into games. They're scoring runs. Games are quick. You're getting guys back in and out. I think that's huge. And LA and I were talking when it comes to the starting pitching. I believe there was an article saying that I think the Phillies average fastball velocity ranks as starters either at the bottom or in the bottom 5, but yet they're number 1 in everything out there. So that teaches you it's not only about velocity. Yeah, velocity allows you to get by with mistakes. But these guys that know how to pitch and locate and do different things, hitters aren't used to that. They're used to seeing mistakes over the middle of the plate at 95, and everybody's trying to throw hard. Next thing you know, it's a 2-2, 3-2 counts all game. When you're pitching 0-2 to 1-2, it's hard to get a pitcher. It's hard to get them. Pitcher's advantage, because you go from 0-2, 1-2s where guys are, I think, hitting maybe 150. OPSing is way low in like the 400s. But to go from 2-1 beyond, the numbers almost double instantly. So, I'm just such a huge fan of quality starting pitching. And if you got quality starting pitching, you can run the table.
I was going to say, to add on to that I asked a question in our booth last night in between innings. I said, which of our starters last year had the best ERA? Who would you think?
Wheeler.
Suarez.
Christopher Sanchez. He only started 18 games. He didn't get a 30, full season of starting, but 18 starts is a pretty good record, or a pretty good number. And he had the best ERA of all our starters. Better than Wheeler, better than Suarez, better than Nola. And he's our 4th starter, or I don't know. Some might say our 5th. I think he's our 4th.
Yeah.
I'm just impressed by him, and he's getting velocity back. And that starting pitching, just what Ducky was saying, these guys are going 6 innings, 7 innings. Your bullpen stays fresher, and especially if the offense is clicking, then you get some blowout games where you don't have to use your guys late in the game. They can be rested. They can get a couple days off. And they haven't been overworked. And I think if they can continue that with the starting pitching with any team, those relievers will be fresher at the end. There's no doubt about it.
I tell you what, to add on to what LA's saying, I've had the opportunity to watch Sanchez develop over the years, and he came over from, I believe, his Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Look, by all means, he looked like he was going to be a reliever. Well, last year when he came in, all of a sudden he dialed stuff back. Delivery got better, more consistent, arms up on time. The sink came. Velocity regressed a little bit, but he threw more strikes. And it was hard to lift the sinker. And he always had a plus changeup. And the slider, any given day, could be an average to plus pitch. Like, there's a lot there, but he made some adjustments along with coach's staff. However, whoever got to him and he trusted it and believed in it, now you're seeing a night and day different player, because how many times did he come up a few years ago? And it was a matter of throwing strikes. Okay, he's going deep. Everybody's saying, maybe he's a middle reliever, long guy. Yeah. Hey, I was one of them. But then you see these adjustments that these guys make, and you're like, whoa, this is a different player. And now he's getting velocity back, but staying under control. I mean, I tip my hat. He's made one heck of an adjustment, and he's been able to sustain it.
Brandon in L.A., there's another former Tampa pitcher who is doing very well in the Phillies organization, Michael Mercado at Lehigh Valley.
Right.
And I guess if we have to reach into the top farm team, he's probably the most logical guy that would come up if we needed pitching help.
Yeah.
He's got really good stuff.
L.A., how many years is this in either the Phillies TV booth or the Phillies radio booth for you?
Let's see. 27th year.
That's a long run. What we talked a little bit earlier about playing highlights in your career. What are your broadcasting highlights? 27 years. That's a remarkable run, and the people of Philadelphia love you.
I think the highlight is getting on the umpires regularly.
Not you.
Well, I can really only talk about the last couple years because I don't remember the first 25. But honestly, somebody brought this up yesterday or the day before. The highlight of your broadcast career. Mine was the Harper home run against San Diego in 2022.
That's when we got into the World Series.
Yeah. And that to me was the highlight. Obviously, there was the Matt Stairs home run in the Dodger Stadium, the Schwarber home run in San Diego, but Harper's line drive home run against San Diego in the playoffs 2 years ago was probably my highlight calling in the broadcast booth.
Gosh, it was raining. I wondered if the baseball gods had turned against us. Sir Anthony Dominguez came in and made a couple of wild pitches in the rain, and San Diego gets the go-ahead run, tying run and go-ahead run. I think, oh, geez. Yeah, and then the Bryce Harper home run.
I'm surprised they pitched to him. He was so hot. I was just like, I'm not pitching to him right now.
I mean, I think everybody thought that. Well,
it's like, on a serious note.
Yeah.
And as you know, I and these fans know who think so much of you. You've had some health concerns,
right?
Some health challenges the last couple of years. How do you feel right
great.
now?
I had my checkup in April. The PSA was non-detectable, no cancer detectable. I did have a little problem with the hormone shots that I got, because they try and take your testosterone down to 0 because that feeds the cancer cells. So that when I got the shots for him, the doctor said, I said, well, what's the side effects? And he said, well, it'll be kind of like a woman going through menopause, only not as severe. And I said, oh, okay. I said, do you have anything that I might be able to relate to? Because I have no idea what you're talking about. And he started laughing. He goes, oh, I'm sorry. He said, you'll have some mood swings. And I said, well, nobody will know the difference there. And he said, and you'll get some hot flashes. So when I went for my checkup in April, my last shot was September 1st. They said, that you'll have some mood swings and some hot flashes for about 3 months. And then your testosterone should start coming back. June is my 9th month, and I'm still having hot flashes. And I said to the doctor, I said, you either lied to me or you overdosed me. I don't know which. He started laughing. He said, well, everybody's a little different. And I said, 3 months to 9 months is not a little different. And we kind of laughed about it. But that's, I mean, if this is what I have to deal with for the rest of my life, so be it. I'm fine with that.
Well, you sound great.
It's annoying.
You look great.
Thank you.
And we come to our last commercial break today. Isn't it great hearing from Larry Andersen and Brandon Duckworth? We'll be back with the final segment of today's show after these messages.
Hey, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Dive into our delectable seasonal seafood specials, including our Chickies and Pete's Sticky Lobster Tacos, succulent Brazilian tail meat in a spicy sauce, or try our Chicky and Pete's Shrimp Po' Boy, our signature fried shrimp, lettuce, roasted tomato, and a cherry pepper sauce, served on a fresh baguette. Plus, don't forget our Chicky and Pete's buy one, get one sweet and tasty snow crab legs every Tuesday and Wednesday, only at Chickies and Pete's. Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Relax and enjoy a cocktail from our seasonal cocktail menu. Try one of our delicious, perfectly blended options like strawberry lemonade. How about a raspberry sangria, blend of Pinot Grigio, raspberry liqueur, and bubbly lemon lime soda? Or maybe a Hendrick's Gimlet or a Patron Tropical Mojito is more your style. Enjoy one of these or many others from our Chicky and Pete's sensational seasonal cocktail selection. Only at Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Learn more about your coverage options at ibx.com.
I SEPTA Philly.
I SEPTA Philly. I SEPTA Philly.
I take SEPTA so I never miss tip-off.
I do not have time to deal with traffic.
I don't have a car.
Do you know how expensive parking is?
I take the Broad Street line to all the games.
I ride the bus.
I ride the train and the subway.
I set my lineup when I ride.
I check Twitter, text my buddies.
I watch sports highlights or lowlights.
For real Philly fans, SEPTA is the hometown way to go. Ride with us at iseptaphilly.com.
Whether you're headed to brunch or baseball practice, Team Toyota is ready. With new Toyotas on the lot ready to drive home today, including the all-new Tacoma and rows of RAV4s. And with our huge selection of dependable certified used Toyotas, our pre-owned departments are ready to make a deal that works for you. Plus, our award-winning service centers will have you back on the road in no time. Visit one of our 3 locations in Princeton, Langhorne, or Glen Mills, or online at teamtoyota.net.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session, presented by SEPTA. Once again, here are your hosts, Phillies PA announcer Dan Baker and former Phillies pitcher Brandon Duckworth.
Hey, thank you to all Phillies fans who've come out today, and maybe hello over there. The first place Phillies, 6.5 in front, and that's with the Braves picking up a game yesterday by beating the Oakland A's while the Phillies lost in 10 innings and to St. Louis, and they'll try to bounce back tonight against the Brewers. It could be a special year, and you go back and look at great starts in Phillies history. Larry Andersen, your 93 team had one of the best starts.
Yeah, it was right out of the from spring training, that just the camaraderie and the chemistry of the team, the players that we had, you knew it was going to be something special. It was the guys that came in, myself, Danny Jackson, David West, among others, everybody fit in. And I think Lee Thomas did a terrific job of bringing a group of guys together, a bunch of misfits that, they were resurrected really that year. And it was just a thrill to play with that group of guys.
Everybody talks about what a great leader Darren Dalton was. L.A., it seemed to me that, you were one of the leaders of that club, too.
I was when it came to the pitchers, because most everybody on the team was 10 years younger than me. 93, I was 40, and most of the guys I was playing with were in late 20s or early 30s. So when things happened, I know there was one situation where Mitch came in after Schilling got a complete game 3-1 win, and Mitch was warming up but didn't come in the ninth. So after the game, which we won, Schilling finished, Mitch came in, threw his glove in his locker, ripped his jersey off, and Dutch jumped up and got right in his face. And they went back and forth, and Dutch looked at me and he said, "Hey, Drew," he called me Drew. He said, "Drew, will you please come here and take care of this?" So me and Mitch went in the back room, in the weight room. And I told him, I said, "You've never lied to me, and I'm not," I said, "but I don't know what you're doing." And he says, "I was just frustrated. You know how it is." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to call you a liar and say that's not what you were thinking." I said, "But the perception is that you were upset that you didn't get a chance for a save." And I said, "We won the game." I said, "That's what's most important." I said, "And the fact is that 24 other guys in that clubhouse, including myself, think that you were mad because you didn't get a save." And I said, it's a matter of, if you're frustrated, hold it in. I mean, be happy we won the game. Don't let your personal gains, be greater than the team. And so, when things came to pitchers and Dutch would ask me to step in or have to say something, and that was one that I specifically remember where he actually called me in the middle of the clubhouse when they were arguing and said, "Come and talk to him." But
Brandon Duckworth, for the Phillies teams that you played on, was there a player who most of the rest of the team respected and kind of took that leadership role as Darren Daulton and Larry Andersen did?
Yeah, I think, every team's going to be a little bit different. I mean, Darren, all the stories you hear, he was just you walk in, he just pulls your attention, right? And much like LA said, usually pitchers take care of pitchers, position players take care of pitchers. I remember, back when I was here, a guy that was a soundboard was Dave Hollins. He'd been there, an older guy, been through 93, all these other teams, so you would sit there and you'd talk, guys would talk to him, but, you could just see if you were doing something and he would just kind of give you the look and you're like, okay, I guess
that's all it took from him.
Right? That's all it took from him, right? And then, you would have some of the pitchers, the Millwoods of the world, and some of the relievers, Real Cormier, Turk Wendell, guys that had a lot of experience. They would just sit there and they'd talk to you, but it wasn't as crazy, as a Mitch Williams situation. So we never really saw that. And like when I went into Houston, we had guys like Bagwell, Biggio, Berkman, like Jeff Kent. I mean, you got guys that they're there and everybody has that respect and you see how they play. They lead by example. You follow suit. We had Andy Pettit. We had Roger Clemens. We had Roy Oswalt. Like, nobody really got out of line to where anybody had to say anything, and I think a lot of times it's either a young guy that gets frustrated and just kind of blows up but doesn't realize and isn't thinking, about the ramifications of his actions versus, the veteran guys that normally after the game, oh, hey, you know what, we're going to sit here, we're going to have a couple of Cokes and have a little conversation, right? That's typically how it would go. Very rarely did you see big blow-ups.
Yeah.
I want to give you a word about next week's show. We'll be at the Chickies and Pete's in Malvern, and Larry Christensen will be our guest next Monday from 6 to 7 at Chickies and Pete's in Malvern, PA. I think we've had quite a show today. Don't you agree? Having a big round of applause for Larry Andersen and Brandon Duckworth. Our producer has been Chris Ermer. Thank you for joining us for the Independence Blue Cross Bull Session.